Welcome to the CADclass podcast. I'm Josh.
I'm Jake.
Every week we talk about all things 3D printing, making CAD, and open
Sometimes
software for
philosophy,
tomorrow.
sometimes a little bit more. This week we talk about new printers.
Yes. We're maybe out with the old and with the new to tease it a little bit.
Today's going to be a little bit of a heavy 3D printing discussion, I think.
Yes.
That's going to be the main thing of the day. Where are we going with new printers? What are the things that coming down the pipeline that some of us like and some of us don't like? I think that's going to be the main topic for today, is me being crusty and set in my 3D printing ways and Josh going, nah, let's have something new.
Maybe time to change. It's funny trying to strike that balance as a business between, focusing on things that are already working well and continuing to improve them, or moving on to something new and starting a little bit fresh and reimagining what you might do. And I think the difficulty that a lot of businesses face is they try to go out and do too many new things without actually having built out a good system or a well-oiled system for the old stuff. So anywho, good morning, Cadence, Sam, PC Van Fleet, Ogre. We got some excellent feedback, I think, from at least a couple of you this week in the upcoming Fusion 360 book, Jake.
Yeah. Right at the top, I would like to thank our beta testers for our second edition book. The first time we ever did the book, it took us quite a long time to wrangle a bunch of people, like 25 or 30 people from Reddit, from 3D printing forums, CAD forums, Fusion 360 forums, and say, hey, please, would you please donate dozens and dozens, if not hundreds of hours of your time just to help us out. And we had the most wonderful cohort. They didn't all make it through the very end, but we had a lot of them that went from knowing absolutely nothing, and it just seemed like good timing that they wanted to learn CAD, and this thing was kind of coming along, and they helped us out innumerably. They were so unbelievably fantastic. Some of them are still very heavily in our community today. Sam Coleman has been around for a little while. And
Sam's kids took some of the classes, and
Jerry Verdon,
and
lots of people,
and Rebecca as well, his wife.
Yeah,
right.
And so it's been we've had fantastic success, and this time we reached out to a few of our Discord members last week, and literally within a couple of days went through a couple chapters worth of many projects, and they gave us such fantastic feedback. So thank you ever so much. You guys have no idea just how much time you've saved us, how much better the book is going to be because of all of your help and suggestions and tips. And hey, Jake, you did this wrong. And I go, fair enough, that's fine. I missed that. So thank you ever so much. And as appropriately, you guys will have a little shout out in the book as well. In our acknowledgement areas, as a big thank you to our beta testers.
Shout out. That's going to be a big part of what we do, I think, from here forward. I just love seeing what people make. I think the rest of the world loves seeing what people make too. It's a little bit of motivation. It's neat for the people that do the things. And so, highlighting as many of you as possible in all of our future books, and, maybe shout out here and there in courses as well. Just absolutely love it.
Yeah, we are essentially planning on having at least a couple dozen full pages of you guys' projects, kind of showcasing either individual people or just the rad things that they've made. Not as far as the book, but as far as, I learned so-and-so about CAD, and now I want to make my own projects, which is our favorite thing in the world to see. It's when you guys actually take what we've taught you and then go, that's handy, but I need to kind of dive in on my own projects and really make something fantastic. It's our most favorite thing on the planet. And so we want to showcase that as much as humanly possible. Obviously, we'll be reaching out to some of you guys to make sure everything's groovy for us to actually publish it in the book. But remember, if you do have anything that you are really stoked, really excited about that you would like us to showcase in the book, post it in the I Made a thing, and we will definitely put that in the book.
Love it. All right. Speaking of I Made a Thing, Jake, we got a couple things to show off this week, and then we'll transition into our topic of the day just after that.
PC Van Vliet saying it's going to be a full episode of Jake Rant. Maybe. We haven't done a Jake Rant in a little while, but this very well may be a very long term.
I wonder I wonder, yeah, what I kind of wonder is, I feel like as you get older and older, you have to fight the urge to go, well, when I was young, and there's so many iterations
Yeah,
back
fair.
in my day of the way things used to be. There's
Mhm.
fantasy world that we all live in a little bit. I think even though Jake, you're still in your 20s, you are an old
I have this. I yeah. People have told me I have an old soul, which is a
coincidence
bit of an insult.
favorite.
But
That is
but
the name of my favorite coffee shop here in Sacramento, Old Soul.
old soul.
Yeah,
That's pretty good.
it's really got
Yeah,
your name on it.
yeah, definitely. I think as always, haven't looked at any of these over the week. I always kind of like to leave it to the pod to be surprised and be stoked at what you guys are making. Um, and from Mr. Mitnick, which I think is PC Van Fleet,
PC
a
Van
friend
Vliet.
got a new table for outside, but unfortunately the chairs do not fit under the table. So a bit of fusion. A few hours later, the chairs did fit under the table.
Some
So just
risers.
little risers. That
Yep.
is, I just love how simple that is.
Love it, love it, love it, love it.
I can only imagine that took him probably what 5-10 minutes to model,
Couldn't have taken long.
maybe
Yeah.
maybe an hour to print out, and it makes life so much better.
And
It's
it's
so funny.
what an annoying problem. Can you in the past, it would have been somebody stuffing some newspapers under there or books or
Matchbox.
just something ridiculous. Yeah, love it.
I usually think of the inverse. I can imagine people taking a saw to all the legs of the chair and and then getting pissed off
Screw this.
when all of them aren't level and everyone's sitting like that.
Yeah.
That's even better. It's so funny you made that because I have literally this week made risers for my standing desk. I'm a slightly tall chap, and my standing desk doesn't go up that high. And every single time that I want to stand up and use it, I feel like I'm always crouching over. I'm like, I don't need more back problems, dude. And so what I made for my tool chest just to kind of raise it off the ground a little bit, distribute some of the stress. I think I probably have a ton of no, yeah, maybe 1,000 pounds worth of tools in my tool chest, and like weighing down my floor, and I don't really want dimples. So like, skirt, I'm gonna do the same thing for my desk. So now it's
Hashtag humble brag. I mean, how much does your tool chest weigh?
no, 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 no,
You
no,
know,
no. This is
how
not humble
much
brag.
how much
This is
does your
me.
tool chest weigh? That's what I wanna know.
Okay, I think my tool chest, which I inherited from my father, I did not buy this, which is, oh god, I think maybe 20 years old at this point. I think it's probably 200 pounds. A lot of the weight, most of the weight, maybe 100 or 200 pounds, is metal stock that I donate. No, what's the reverse of is stealing the reverse of donating? It was from a free pile that you could take if you wanted, and it was stock metal. And I thought, oh well, I'll use that big, nice round of aluminum or that kind of long, skinny rod of steel. But I don't have a lathe, so I've just got an entire drawer of my tool case just full of metal stock that I need to use when I do get a metal lathe, probably the next couple of years.
So
But
pro tip for everybody who has a toolbox, put one drill in it, couple bits, and then load it full of metal, and then just tell all your friends you'll never look how heavy this. You have to come over here and feel this
do
toolbox.
you see how many
It's
tools
so
I have?
heavy. Yeah, just push it around a little bit. Just see if you can move it.
I think everyone, you
Uh,
know how everyone in their this is going to be a Jake rant immediately. Okay, you know how I think everyone in their kitchen or their living room has a drawer of just crap, just filled random stuff. Can
a
we all
drawer
agree?
is what
Maybe
one would.
multiple.
Yeah.
Yeah, I th- I think we can all agree that for most people, every drawer on their tool case has that kind of vibe. I've been to lots of friends' shops and they go, "Oh, can you just grab me
Oh,
number one Phillips bit?" I go, "Yeah, yeah, sure." Open it up and it's just scattered with bits everywhere.
does it give you
Oh god,
anxiety? Because I have
it
the
completely gives me
same.
anxiety.
I have this problem when I go into other people's kitchens. So if I cook in somebody else's kitchen, it gives me anxiety because I'm like, I have to, not only do I have to think about cooking and making this dish, I have to think about where every single thing I grab is. And then
Yeah,
you open the drawers and it's all over the place, and the knife isn't where you think the knife should be, and the towels aren't where you think the towels should be.
yeah.
And so every 30 seconds you're like, where's this? Where's that? Where God, I don't know what drawer. And so it's just what a mess. Not easy.
I
Anxiety
I
inducing.
I have a family member who I was staying at their house for a while, and they have instead of lots of small drawers where you can kind of organize it, they just had one gigantic, like 6 foot wide drawer. I don't know why. It was like heavy duty. And so instead of sectioning off, they would just throw all of their utensils everywhere. I'm going to be bringing this back to toolkit, to tools and making, I promise. But it would literally build up with so much stuff that they would go, oh, I thought I had a can opener. I guess I need to buy a can opener. And one morning I snuck down there like 5 in the morning, and I just very, very quietly took everything out, separated it, or organized it, and re-put it in. And then when they woke up, I'm like, here is your organized drawer, and here's your duplicates of all of your cookery tools. Here's your triplicates, and here's your quadruplets. They had 4 can openers.
You never know when you're going to have to open 4 cans at once.
I've met people where they go, oh, I have a dog, and I have like the dog food tin opener, and then I have the human food tin opener. That's fine. That's cool. 4 is surely far too many. And I have the same gut feeling when I go into messy tool carts.
Yeah.
And I'm going to make a distinction because a messy tool cart is incredibly different to a messy shop. A messy shop is completely acceptable. A cacophony is completely acceptable because it is a physical representation of your brain. You know where everything is, it's scattered, and there in the chaos, there is a certain amount of order. I completely understand that. If I have a perfectly clean workspace or a perfectly clean desk, I can't get any work done. I need to have piles of crap everywhere and like 50 cups and papers and books stacked everywhere to the point where the only thing I can fit is my hands on the keyboard. That's the only way that I can get serious work done. Same thing in a workshop. I need it to be covered in crap for me to do any work, any serious long-term work. But tool carts and tool drawers, they need to be pristinely clean and organized, or else it just makes my head explode.
Yeah, yeah.
I've made so many organizing stuff for my tool cart over the years, and I wish I could go into my friends' shops and say, "Hey, sit down, go grab a coffee. I'm going to spend a couple hours going through and organizing this." It would ruin their workflow, but it would make me so happy.
Well, I mean, that's like that really is the secret sauce. That problem scales up when you have a shared workspace, right? So if you work at a makerspace or any sort of shared tool space, if you don't religiously follow the every tool has its place philosophy, you literally can't get anything done. You will not find what you need to find. And it's so crazy to think that what I think drives really good classes in making as well, one of the main drivers is simply knowing where to find things and knowing for sure that they're going to be where you're looking for them. If you don't have that, I would argue it almost doesn't matter what you do, your class isn't going to be great.
Basically, yeah. I think so. It's
it only takes
wild how many people that we've taught that have, if you don't have any tool knowledge, that's fine. You're here to take a class. That's kind of the whole point. But they have no organizational skills, which is, I think, mind-blowing to another degree. Because I'm like, well, that's everything in life, surely. But maybe not. Maybe not.
Maybe not.
I don't know. No, I'm going to do a tangent. Okay, you ready for this? I do think that my kind of anal retentiveness of organizing my toolbox and all of my tool carts and everything like that, I don't think that is a learned skill. I think it can be a learned skill, but I don't think it's a learned skill for me because I have been doing this my entire life. And I'll tell you a quick story. So when I was a kid, I used to fly to the UK and the US back and forth a couple times a year. Pretty frequent flyer as a kid. And it was my it was my time passing hobby when we'd have like a layover of like 8 hours, where it was well before smartphones were a thing, like baby Jake. And I used to love going to all of the touristy shops inside the airport where they had like this huge wall of magnets, and I used to organize the hell out of them and put them in nice, neat grids and organize them by color and size and make them beautiful and perfect. And it would take me an hour, and then I would leave. And I would do that over and over and over again, to the point where I would spend so long and get so laser focused into it that I would often forget to tell my mum, "Hey, I'm just going to go to that shop and play, basically, and organize." To the apparently, the story is I think I was probably 4 doing this, and I ran away from my mum, and she lost me. I ran off, and she had to run up to the security going, "I've lost my son. I don't know where he is," freaking out, thinking, "God, I'm in an international airport," only thinking the worst, freaking out. My poor mother, who's just flying with me, talking to the security, "Oh my God, was he taken?" This and that. I still feel bad to this day. And then after probably an hour of her freaking out and being terrified, I was just organizing magnets. Damn, I still feel bad for that today.
That's
But I
hilarious.
but I think that is where my tool chest organizing comes from.
So it was
Um,
you were born with it. You were
I think I was
basically
born with it.
you were born a tool chest organizer.
I think so. I
I
think
think
so.
so. Yeah, I think
Yeah,
that's true. Yeah.
and it leaks into other parts of my life. My partner is definitely not that vibes, and so I'll make custom 3D printed organizers for all of her makeup and skincare routine and this and that. And she's like, "I don't really need this." I'm like, "Yes, you do."
PC
Um,
Beverly says, "What stores are you no longer able to visit?"
oh God,
They're
I
like, yeah, what I
don't know.
mean, I feel like there's a couple of electronic stores that actually induce massive anxiety for me because they're not
Mm,
organized at all.
mhm,
And I'm like, I can't I want to start organizing them, but it's so
mhm.
overwhelming that I'm like, I have to leave. I have to
Yeah,
leave. And I go in
yeah.
and I go out.
Old vinyl record shops that aren't alphabetized drive me mad.
Oh, it's horrible. It's really hard to
And
find
it's
anything.
it's it's not the shop owner's fault. It's people who are going, "Oh, cool, Bee Gees. Oh, cool, Blondie," and then they just mix them and go, "Oh, it's a B." No, absolutely not. How dare you do?
It's actually
Uh,
surprising you didn't work at a record shop.
I know. I kind of want
That
to,
would have
but
been like, because you'd have this continuous ability to go and fix everything that is put in funny spots.
yeah.
That's
But
oh,
I
that's
I
really
think that would
funny.
just be me living this eternal satisfaction and also sheer hatred of people.
Right. 20-year-old
Just
Jake is
me.
90-year-old Jake in a matter of a week.
Yeah, just me biting people. Yeah.
Well,
Um,
shall we,
tangent.
shall we
As I was
transition?
in the airport as a
Uh,
kid, I am also flying out tomorrow up to
tomorrow
San
morning.
Francisco,
So if you guys are
tomorrow
gonna
morning,
be in San Francisco tomorrow, or
or this
Friday or
weekend.
Saturday
Really,
or Sunday or, you know, any of
you
those
are very
days,
probably going to
send us a
open
note.
source.
Send us a note. Or maybe you live there. Maybe some folks who listen
Yeah,
live there. So send us a note. We'd love to meet up. And Jake, we
yeah,
are giving something away. Is that correct?
that is true. I don't have it on me right now,
That's okay.
but if you are going to open source this weekend, it's one of the best advertisements I've seen. It's the world's greatest science fair for adults. I love that. It is William Osman's YouTube Maker Convention. Josh and I went to last year, had a blast. We had to come back. Um, I'm sure I'll probably meet a couple people from the Discord there, from the community. So flipping excited.
So excited.
Yeah, we were planning on bringing a bunch of projects, but we had zilch time, and so maybe next year. Maybe next year.
Yeah, I really wanted to get the HAL 9000 done, and then I realized, oh, I could work on HAL 9000 for the next month, and then we don't get
Yeah.
the book done. We don't make any sales. Like,
Yep.
uh,
Maybe
so next
it
time.
is definitely something I want to do because I've had
Same.
my HAL 9000 skeleton staring at me from my workshop. I can literally see it right now for
Yep.
years, and I've been meaning to finish it. And I think if I can incorporate some AI into it and actually put it onto my wall, I think that'd be awesome.
Super rad. Yep, we'll
So,
do it. I have the Raspberry Pi. I'm looking at the Raspberry Pi now. It's funny what stopped me too early on was just cables. I was like, "Oh, I don't have a mini HDMI cable. I have to go buy the
yeah,
cables."
me
And
too.
I started to recognize like, "Oh, I got to make an order list, and I need not only do I need to build all this stuff, but I need to test it." And yeah, and unfortunately, we said, "I think the book is more important. I think getting the book out by July is crucial."
I think it's a little bit more high priority.
Yeah.
Um, really quick, I want to finish off the I made
Discord.
a thing. Sorry,
Yep.
brain fart. And a couple cool things. Coming from Jerry Verdon. This is a replacement door handle for a Toyota. The amount of things that I see of people wanting to do CAD so they can make replacement car parts is so ridiculous.
We
Apparently
have
didn't
Sam
break a
Sam
lot.
in here
So
too. So Sam's
yeah,
in here, Jerry's in here. I would say like half of the people that I chat with are doing
mhm.
something along those lines.
It seems like I mean, it's obviously not easy to do because you have to know an absurd amount about cars and specific parts that break. But as far as the CAD that goes into it, it doesn't seem mind-blowingly difficult. It seems like you could get the majority of the parts, the CAD files online, or tweak it, or improve for 3D printing or CNC machining, as Jerry's doing here. But it just seems like such a rad little area to get into. Awesome CAD design, love it. Yeah, you see,
Practical,
it's not
solves the problem, not all that complex.
all that tricky. Love it.
No.
Replacement part that breaks. Dig it. I don't have any parts of my car that have broken. It's just parts of my car that I don't like.
I love this one right here. So Jerry made a giant Pez dispenser.
A giant Pez dispenser?
Yeah.
That's hysterical.
That is such an iconic piece of my childhood. The Pez dispenser. I didn't even like Pez. I thought they sucked. I'm like, little balls of sugar. Like I don't. It's no good. It's
to be
not
fair,
tasty.
Josh, you hate sugar.
Sugar sucks. Sugar's terrible.
Sugar's
I know everybody loves
That's
sugar.
hysterical. That's amazing.
But yeah, the Pez dispenser, it's like there's a certain number of products that are they just have this special iconic status in my head. And I wonder how that happened. The Pez dispenser is definitely one of them.
Yeah.
Like this little mechanism that when it opens, it poops the Pez out. Yeah.
You could have gone with a better word, but that's okay.
Yeah, great word for something you're going to eat.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
I'm currently working on a project that we're probably going to put out a video probably when we get back. But it's really, really strange because I was going through my memory of all my projects that I've ever made, and I kind of realized last week that I have never actually made a 3D printed gear project at all, ever. And I was looking back, I'm like, surely I have made something in the past that uses gears. And I couldn't think of a single one, and it was ridiculous. And like we've made the Nautilus gears. I probably make 1,000 of those. We love to give those away at conventions. Those are a ton of fun. But as far as actually incorporating geared mechanisms into 3D printed projects, I haven't done it. And I was really annoyed because I have a love for gears. I just think they're mechanically beautiful. And one of the projects that I've been wanting to make for so long is to make a little bit more of a beefed up version of the gear train that we have in the chapter 10, the motion animation part of the book, and that's making a gear reduction. The idea is that you have a really quickly spinning motor on the front end, and then you have successive compound gears, which is essentially what this is, where, if you can see it, there's a large gear on the outside, smaller gear in the middle, and so essentially, because they're connected on the same axle, the ratio of the teeth from the larger to the smaller gear, that is the gear reduction. So this is 100 teeth to 20 teeth. So it is a 5-to-1. And depending on which way you have the input and the output, that becomes either slowing down, or slowing down the speed, which then increases the torque, or reverse, where you are then speeding up the gear, but then you are reducing the torque. So if you take one of these in the book, we just hook up like a normal hobby motor to it, and then we reduce the speed successively over and over and over again until the last gear takes 1 year to make a full rotation, which is super rad. But I was inspired by this one art project that I saw in the very early days of YouTube. I think it's an artist, engineer, mathematician, not quite sure who it is. But they're in the University of Wisconsin, I think. But it's essentially a worm gear system. So super, super, super low gear reduction, where it starts off with a really quick motor and it successfully goes slower and slower and slower until the last gear is set in concrete, where it is technically moving, but it's moving so ungodly slowly that to make one revolution would take more time than the universe has existed. That's so awesome. And I've been meaning to kind of do the calculations to see, can I do that with a 3D printing system? Because the entire thing, it's gigantic. It's maybe a yard of like massively solid gears. I'm like, I've been wanting to do that for so long. And so I am finally in the process of making a universal lifetime gear. And so I'm currently printing out, I'm sure you guys probably hear it, 28 of these little 5-to-1 compound gears, spinning it with just a pretty normal. Oops, if I can go, just a pretty normal little hobby motor. Nothing special. Just hook it up to some AA, so 3 volts. Spins like 2,500 RPM, and I can get it going from 2,500 to, oh gosh, what are my calculations? I've got some calculations, guys. For the rotation, for one revolution to be 13.77 billion years old, is 6.81 times 10 to the negative 24 revolutions per minute. It's like the width of a quark, like the subatomic particles per minute. It's a ridiculously slow amount of time. And I've been we're gonna be making a full video on this, but I took out one of the gears and I replaced it with a press fit single gear tooth, so you can actually see just how much the gear teeth are moving as you go along the process. But it only takes 24 of these. And it's not like it's, I mean, 5-to-1 is not that crazy of a gear reduction, but 28 gears is all you need to go down to slower than the universe, which is mental. I love that. So that is coming down the line. But yeah, my first geared project. I couldn't believe it. But after printing these and playing around with them, just going, oh, wow, they actually mesh unbelievably nicely. I want to make a ton more geared mechanisms, dude. I love this stuff so much.
Speaking of nice projects, I have gotten to watch.
That was a good transition.
I've gotten to watch the project that's coming out this Saturday on YouTube.
Oh yeah,
and I'm stoked. I'm stoked. Shout out to
that's our little.
I'm excited. That's our little teaser for the audience. It's a really useful, interesting video, and it's related to what people have already built in our community, and it adds, I think, a lot to their 3D printing journey. So I'm excited for that to come out.
I think we've talked about it before. It's all about making the Saturn V rocket that we make in Chapter 0, but kind of beefing up and making it actually more accurate to real life. But because that's kind of a boring, it's not really worth a video, I've packed it with 8 different 3D printing joints, connections, joinery techniques that you can apply to all other projects. I've tried to cram as many things in there as possible. It's a relatively short video, and I hope you learn a lot. I'm sorry it is literally 3 weeks late. I was sick for 2 of them, and I was exhausted for 1 of them. So, but it's coming out Saturday morning while I'll be at open source. So, yeah, if you do check it out, leave a thumbs up, leave a comment. Thank you very much.
All the things. So let's spice up the conversation a little bit. I want to involve some of our community. So if you're in the chat still and you're listening in, I definitely want your feedback in this next segment. So, Jake, let's go back a little bit to the history of CADclass and to the history of why we do what we do. So for those who don't know, you and I worked together for 6 years at a makerspace. We built a ton of classes together. We really
hated it. Oh,
we really loved working with yeah, right. Clearly we didn't like each other. We didn't stick around. But
that's why we're not in the same room.
I think what you and I share a passion for is I want to put teaching in quotes. We love sharing knowledge with people in a way that excites them, gets them enthusiastic about it, that makes people want to go and do a lot more stuff and build and kind of recognize either a talent or a skill or a motivation inside themselves they didn't know they had.
I have a disgusting quality that I love to tell fun facts to everyone.
A great disgusting quality. It was a great disgusting quality. The kids loved it. They would all talk about the fun facts. Honestly, the other teachers loved it too. And you still do those on the podcast here. So anyways, early days, we realized that one of the most important maker skills is CAD, computer-aided design. And this is kind of the reason that CADclass exists, is we thought, wow, we took CAD classes. We tried to learn CAD. I didn't do it in school. You did it in school, but it really, frankly, didn't matter all that much because we couldn't find anything good. So early on in the classroom, we tried to introduce CAD to kids, and they didn't resonate. They didn't like it. Just like, why am I on my computer? I'm in a shop. I want to cut wood. I want to cut metal. I want to do stuff, right? So they didn't really view it as doing stuff until one day we put a 3D printer down in the classroom. When we put that 3D printer down, it was a light bulb moment, both for me and I think for the kids. And the light bulb moment is 3D printing is impossible not to stare at. It is
Yeah.
fascinating to see a 3D printer work. And if you've never seen one before, the first time you see it, you will remember. You will just look at it and
Yes.
stare at it, and you're like, that is a magic machine. What is
I think
actually going on there?
especially if you aren't in the maker world, if you are just kind of the average Joe who sees people doing woodworking, that's probably what they think making is. Maybe they think of like garbage sculptures that are welded together by some weird dude in the middle of nowhere. That's I think what a lot of people think. And we go to a lot of conventions where we talk to homeschooling people and charter school kids and this and that, where they're just people and parents and kids going to school. Nothing niche whatsoever. And we usually have 3D printers running, and the amount
It's
of kids
magic.
that run over, the amount of
Magic.
adults that run over and they go, "Oh my god, 3D printer!" Even though it is so commonplace to us, to everyone in the maker community, they are so unbelievably excited, which is great
Well,
because
so
when you
PC
see
Van
that,
Vliet
I also get that high.
exactly, and PC Van Fleet just said, "Yeah, I've been printing for years, and I still get that feeling," and I do too.
Mhm.
And I'm gonna
Yes.
talk a little bit about the machine in the back right there. That's gonna be a big part of our discussion, that A1 Mini right there. I got that feeling once again when I started that A1 Mini. I was like, "Oh, this is again the magic moment." So, we're always looking for that magic moment when we're teaching. We're always looking for that spark. We're always looking for that way to introduce hard or difficult to learn technical
Yeah.
skills that really aid in people's ability to bring their ideas to life.
Yeah.
I
That
think if
magic
we're committed
moment,
to
so
one
different
goal,
and so new.
right, if there's one end goal that we have, it's like, how do we inspire people to want to dig deeper and then to learn the technical skills that will really help them to build whatever it is that they imagine. So bring your imaginations to life, I think, is really what it is. So
Yeah.
our way back in the day, 2017, I think, maybe 2018, we started thinking, what if we just had people build the Ender 3 3D printer? We recognized printers were cheaper, especially the Ender series. The Ender series opened so many eyes to the world of 3D printing because they were accessible and they worked. They didn't work
Mhm.
perfectly, as all of you on this chat can attest. They are far from perfect. As a matter of fact, um, we kind of pitch it as a benefit that they're imperfect, but we're going to talk about that very point. So that brings us to today. We film courses, and we have, obviously, you guys know, we have the CAD class. We also have 3D printing courses, and we're trying to marry those two ideas, help people bring their ideas to life. Historically, Jake, we have used the original Ender 3 3D printer. And we've done that because we thought it's really fun and interesting to build this thing. It's useful to get your hands on all these parts. It's nice to know the names of things. And the best way to do that is to put them together like Lego.
Mhm.
So
And
for
when something breaks, you know exactly where it is and what it affects because you
cheap,
literally built it section by section.
you built the whole thing.
It
It's
is
also cheap. You've got the names. Like, you're starting to get this like inherent knowledge
yeah.
of the machine itself. You and I, as engineers, and I'm not officially an engineer, but we do those kinds of things. You're an engineer, but we think a lot about we have to know the names. We have to know the parts. We want to
Mhm.
build. We want to make, and part of it feels like that.
I just want to expand on that really quick. I know a lot of people look at the Ender 3 nowadays and they go, "Oh my god, it's so much assembly. There's so many parts." The types of printer before the Ender 3 were mind-blowingly more advanced to build. There were no kit builds. You had to source all the parts individually. If it was an aluminum frame, you had to buy aluminum extrusion and cut it yourself, or you had to make it out of wood. You had to go to Home Depot to get a quarter 20 threaded rod as your lead screw. On top of that, you had to write your own firmware. You had to use crappy slices to slice a Benchy on Cura or Prusa Slicer. How long does that take now? As soon as you click slice, a couple seconds. It used to
Yeah.
take an hour to slice a Benchy. It was literally like dial-up, where you clicked for a large model, you click slice and then go to sleep and wake up in the morning and hope it didn't crash. Like, those that like a very early, massively complicated. It was like a floating city model. It was like, oh, it's so huge, that's awesome. It's complicated. That used to take 24 hours to slice, just slice, and then it would take. Oh, this will take 8 days to print, and the entire time you just crossing your fingers that it'll just survive. So the assembly used to be awfully difficult. And going to the Ender 3, I remember in the community was like, oh my god, it's all in a box. You just
Yeah.
build it. That's
So the kit
amazing.
build. Yeah, so
The
that brings
kit
us to
build,
the kit
yeah,
build. So the kit build you and I really love. I still really love the kit build. It's a
I
great build.
totally.
But there are some downsides. And part of
Definitely.
the downside that we've been discussing is, especially for newcomers, especially for people who are new to the hobby, there is, unless you are incredibly persistent and you just have the personality that is, I will solve problems right away, which I would argue
Mhm.
many people have to develop over many years. They have to develop the
Yeah.
skill, they have to
Yep.
develop the confidence, and they have to just develop simply the I can figure it out attitude, whatever that
Mhm.
happens to be, right? So, one of the issues that we've run into is that the troubleshooting aspect of these, while entertaining and useful from a learn 3D printing standpoint, is not very fun when you're first starting, especially if you've got a model
Agreed.
you want to make, and especially if you want to make it as like it's kind of the extra fuel as you go. So
Mhm.
you and I have been going back and forth about our original Ender 3 build, where we walk people through how to build that thing over the course of about a day. You can do it online or in person. We've done both. But we've revisited this idea, and this is what I'm curious about from the chat to see if you guys agree or disagree. But we have made the decision that in the fall we're going to phase out the original Ender 3 in favor of the Ender 3 V3,
Mhm.
and also in favor of printers like the Bamboo. And we're going to start to focus much more on R&D, product development, CAD, and
Mindset of
less
3D printing.
on not the mindset of 3D printing, less on the actual technical skill. Now we know that comes with downsides. We know that if your A1 Mini or Ender 3 V3 or Prusa or whatever printer you have that's nice, if it breaks and you don't have any experience actually troubleshooting these things, the likelihood that you get it working again is actually pretty low. Maybe you can
Ye
figure it out, but you're like, you haven't really earned your stripes as far as fixing these printers go. So if you're
I agree.
technical and you're able to think like that already, you'll be fine. But for a
Mhm.
lot of our students, if they're just being introduced for the first time, it's going to be tough. So pros
Especially
and
the young
cons.
crowd.
So I'm curious from you guys in the audience, when is, if you've ever taught it or used it, do you still recommend the Ender 3? If so, why? And if not, why not? And are you how do you think about the industry moving? It's almost like the microwaveization. I know it's not a word, but the
No, I love it.
microwaveization of 3D printers, where it's an appliance, right?
Mhm.
And I'm seeing Jerry's comment in here. Printers are becoming appliances. It really is an appliance, and I think the utility of that appliance goes up the less fiddling with it you have to do, and the more you can focus on the actual hard skills of design and slicing and engineering and problem solving, right? And the less time you have to spend troubleshooting, the more time you spend actually designing. That's the hypothesis we're working with moving forward. Jake, what do you think?
I completely agree. I think the microwave edization, lovely word by the way. I think it is completely true. We tried to do this. One of the largest 3D printing companies on the planet is called 3D Systems, and when the MakerBot came out, the I think the replicator, the very popular one, the iconic one that everyone kind of knows as MakerBot, they came out with one that was very visually friendly. It was like a smooth, rounded box. It was like an Apple product, and it was marketed to kids. It's so easy. It doesn't break. You anyone can use it. And technically, yeah, there was a little bit of cultural. Technically, that's not true because a lot of kids just don't know how to use this yet. They will in the future. That will come. But it, it had this illusion of easier than it actually is. They tried to push the microwaveization too early, and in the end, MakerBot was actually totally correct. It is still heavily maker and tinkerers in world, and it is slowly progressing past that. I don't think we are anywhere near it being microwaveization, but I will say that from our hands-on experience working with teachers, not just engineering teachers in high schools or robotics clubs teachers or anything like that, but working with every single different type of teacher you can imagine, social studies, chemistry, and teaching them CAD and 3D modeling and also 3D printing. They're now getting the hang of it. And it's like, ooh, okay. Now 3D printers are in classrooms that have nothing to do with tech. That's interesting. That's
That
very
is
interesting.
interesting. I think one great example is like a bio class. I've always like
Mhm.
I'm a huge fan of if you can make things physically, if you can do things with your hands, if you can bring things to
Mhm.
life, that's how you learn, right? So imagine your ability to draw a cell. We talked about this in the Tinkercad book a little bit, right?
Mhm.
If you're a biology teacher, you don't really want to. Maybe you want to teach your kids how a cell works. So 3D print a whole bunch of them, or have them 3D
Yeah.
print a whole bunch of them, or have them
Or look at
model
the
it up in
3D
CAD.
model where you can
Have them make the
explore it.
model. Have them make the model, and they can, or just give them a 3D model exactly, so they can explore it. They can see it in real time. That I think tangibility is a huge deal. And the bio teacher doesn't really want to fiddle with a 3D printer. They don't care if the 3D printer is right. Like they just want it to work. They just want it to be able to print things that they can share and show and like, enhance and aid in what they already do. And I think Jerry makes a really excellent point here. And this is exactly the point. And you put it beautifully, Jerry. And that is you don't have to know how to fix an oven to be a great baker.
Yeah, true.
That
True.
is a great analogy. That's exactly right. And so we're moving towards that. And we've watched this on the sidelines for a little while, but as you can see behind me, we have entered the world of, and Jake, you have too, a little less with the
A
MK4,
little less.
a little less with the MK4 because you had to build that kit, although they do come pre-assembled. But
Mhm.
I unboxed this bad boy right here, the A1 Mini last night. They went on sale. I believe they're still on sale for the rest of this month and maybe the beginning of next month.
Like
Um,
$200.
$200 for the A1 Mini. I unboxed it last night. I had it up and running in 10 minutes. And Jake, I gotta say, my mind, even after seeing everything online and hearing the reviews and hearing people talk about it, is a little blown. It does
Yeah.
vibration tests, it does auto calibration. Apparently, people have done videos where once it does the vibration test, it can literally be wobbling on a shelf and print perfectly. So
Wow. It can actually
they've built in,
counterbalance. That's pretty amazing.
yeah, yeah. So they've built in all of that annoying early testing stuff where you have to level the
Mhm.
bed and get everything just right is built in, including, by the way, this filament management system. You can see the spools of filament on there just behind me. When you stick the filament in, it detects the color automatically, and then it feeds halfway through the extruder tube automatically. It just pulls it in, and you're like, "Oh, that's." I don't know why I like that so much. I don't know why that's so convenient. It's like not a big deal to feed it through, but for some reason, it feels a little bit like magic. And so I'm playing around with this new Bamboo. We've played around also with the Ender 3 V3, which is a lot more user friendly, although not quite as user friendly as this Bamboo. But
Agreed.
I would actually disagree with you a little bit. I don't think we're that far from the microwaveization, given my experience with that A1 behind me. It is so easy to use. It is so easy to start printing that um, I think we're closer than we realize. And honestly, if Bamboo continues to innovate, it means that Prusa will also innovate behind them. It means that Creality
Mhm.
will also innovate behind them. And I think there's going to be this kind of wave two push. So you had, and maybe
Okay.
this is kind of a way to think about the history. You had the early printers, which you were talking about, rep wrap. You had to build it yourself. It was an absolute technical feat to get
Mhm.
one of these things fully working. And then you had the kit builds that really, and I'm simplifying this greatly, but then you had the kit builds, and especially the Ender 3 kit build, which was like, this opened it up to the world of people.
Mhm.
Shout out to you, Creality. That was really nice work. Then also Prusa, you had Prusa along that same time, and they were again build printers that just work and they're kits, and you get to do it all yourself, right? And now we're in a new wave. I think the new wave is going to be people don't care to fix their printer. They don't care to build it. They just care to bring their ideas to life. They want it to be a tool that works exactly like Jerry was saying earlier, like the oven, as opposed to like if you had to bake, every time you had to bake, you had to go and unscrew the bottom of your oven and pull the plate off and like re-level it. It's like, come on, who's going to bake bread over a long period of time that way? So that's my 2 cents. Jake, what do you think? And I'm seeing some stuff coming
Okay.
in here. I'm going to comment really quickly on what's
Yeah,
being
yeah.
said, and then I want you to take it away from there. So,
Okay.
so Bamboo, so Prusa should be worried, is what PC Van Fleet said. Unfortunately, a little bit, yeah. But I think where it is, there's some stuff coming down the line for them. I'd be surprised if Prusa doesn't innovate and keep up. I would be very, very
Mhm.
surprised because they are such an innovative company. And I know you love your MK4 and basically
I
use nothing else but it right
Yeah, it
now.
has become my daily driver and my only driver, to be honest.
Yeah, totally. So, and there's vibration compensation I see printed by John. Yeah, it's got vibration compensation over here. It goes through this little cycle where it vibrates the tool head at
Wow.
increasingly higher frequencies. And it's
Wow.
honestly just a joy to watch even that part of it.
That's
As
amazing.
you can hear the vibration and you can hear the
Yeah.
frequency change. I'm like, What?
That's
And it's got like noise cancellation, so it calibrates the noise, it moves, and then it just tries to cancel out as much noise as possible. Okay, so it says, let's see. Yeah, it says one of Mike, the creator of the online Tinkercad course, he got a brand new P1P by Bamboo as well. Apparently, he loves it. Prusa should be worried. We said that. Bamboo Labs are amazing machines. So Jerry has the X1C and he's waiting impatiently for the X2 extra large format. Yeah, I mean, the extra large format Bamboos are going to be something to watch for sure. The arm is light. Let's see. Prusa MK3 is oozing. I haven't used it for months. Says Dan. PC Van Fleet says, yeah, Bamboo really shook up the market. Jerry says Creality licenses the filament system from Bamboo Labs and has incorporated it in their latest model. Awesome. Yeah, is that the K2, Jerry? Is that the one you're talking about? The brand new K2 that's coming out from Creality, something like this?
Might be, yeah.
Yeah, and printed by John, noise cancellation. So all of that said, what do you think, Jake?
Okay. I'm going to bring it back to the microwave analogy. I'm going to do a tangent really quick. Do you know what the original use of a microwave was? Go and take a guess.
I know how microwaves were discovered. Do you know how they were discovered? And then I want to hear you.
I don't know, actually.
There was a piece of chocolate in somebody's pants and they were exposed to microwaves and it melted.
That's amazing.
And they couldn't figure out why it melted. And so that led to the discovery of microwaves.
Oh God, why is my right ear so hot?
Yeah.
So the original reason for microwaves kind of becoming used as a tool is to reanimate frozen hamsters back to life.
Hamsters. Dan K said hamsters in there too, just before.
Hamsters. There's an amazing Tom Scott video about it where he actually interviewed not the inventor of microwaves, but certainly the person who put it on track from an industrial science thing that nobody knows what it's doing to actual use. They used to freeze hamsters to see if we could basically heat them up later so they could go to sleep and then wake them up I think it was the 1920s, 30s, 40s, I don't know. And they did it with hamsters, and they used to heat them up with heat pads, but it would burn the hamsters, and they thought that was kind of cruel. And so they thought, oh, well, let's try out this new thing called a microwave. Oh, I can evenly heat up a hamster, and then it comes back to life. And this was before scientific ethics became a little bit more put in place. But so yeah, some of them survived and thought, oh, that's cool. But some of them didn't, and well, we have better ethics now. But
sort of
in the very beginning, microwaves started off as I think it's technically called diathermy, where we really didn't have a use for it. We just kind of knew, hey, this exists. Who knows? It vibrates molecules at a microscopic level. Who knows if there's any use for it? It started off industrially. Similar thing with 3D printing. It started off very industrial with incredibly niche uses. Nobody really knew what was going to happen with it. Nobody knew where it was going to go. It was unbelievably expensive. It took up a huge amount of space. And there was a couple companies in the world that knew what they were doing, and it took years to make a printer. And it was like, where is this going to go? You're just wasting money. And as soon as it became commercialized, then there was a bunch of weird offshoots with it. There was actually microwave restaurants where they used to think, oh, you'll go into a restaurant and you'll pull a frozen meal, you'll go to your table, there'll be a microwave there, and you'll heat it up. And that'll be what restaurants are in the future. And so there's all these really weird, not necessarily, it was, it's culinary, but there was a bunch of different avenues of, where can this technology take us? Obviously, some of them failed. Microwave restaurants aren't really a thing, but it kind of pushed us into one route. And my response to you is, I don't believe we are currently as appliance forward in the 3D printing world. And I'll tell you for why. It has so many bells and whistles. It has auto bed leveling. It has vibration dampener. It can notify if there's a clog. It can give you a notification. Oh, it's turning to spaghetti. It's got cameras on. It's got this and that management systems. It also is a low cost where it is now affordable. We talk to a lot of people at these homeschooling conventions and these charter school conventions, and they think these machines cost thousands and thousands. when we tell them they cost hundreds, they can't believe it. They go, "Oh my god, can we talk?" It's like, yeah, yeah, yeah. So, and I think the biggest hurdle currently that is still limiting it from being thought of as an appliance is the culture behind it. It is still a cultural making tool. It hasn't progressed out of that.
Interesting.
I I
Interesting. I
don't think
wonder if though
I think
so
we have to still think of it like a table saw, essentially, where, yeah, hobbyists use it, professionals use it, people have seen it and they know about it, but there is a certain degree of not anxiety or fear with the tool, but a outsider feeling, going, well, that's not me, that's outside. I'm just,
I think the
I'm not a
fear is a
maker,
really,
therefore it's
really
not
good
good.
way to put it. You put that piece of technology that looks fancy in front of somebody's face, and there's a fear associated with it. What I would argue, maybe slightly differently, is to say that that what you're looking at behind me is a massive step up to the point where I think more and more people will understand this is no longer magic, in the sense that I don't have to open it, print it, do the thing. Like, one of the user experiences we were talking about to make this tangible is the out of the box, make the first thing experience.
Mhm.
So time to print, TTP, let's call it. So the amount of time it takes me to actually make my first thing from the moment I take it out of the box is now under 20 minutes. And
That's
if we can
crazy.
get that under 5 minutes, then suddenly people go, "Oh, I can press a couple of buttons to make that thing." They may not have the technical skills to bring their own ideas to life. Many of them won't yet. But I wonder how many new people are going to be introduced to 3D printing simply from having been exposed to something that is much, much, much easier to use. You can open the app on your phone, you can pick a model, you can press print as long as you're connected to the same Wi Fi. You don't have to open a slicer, you don't have to open a
Mhm.
CAD program, and it just prints. So I agree with you. We're not yet to the microwave of 3D printers. It is still a technical thing, and we may
The
not get
irony
there
that
for
I
some time.
have,
Mm.
the irony that I think we haven't talked about, but I think is interesting, is in the 3D printing community, oh, we want it to be stronger, look better, print faster, etc., etc. We want it to. We're trying to get to the plastic injection molding holy grail stance. Yeah.
Yep.
In my life, when I go out into the world, very rarely, but it does happen. It's happened a couple times. I will see 3D printed things in real life, but they are such a high quality they don't look 3D printed. Therefore, nobody notices it. In one of my grocery stores near me, where they have the little screen where you can tap your credit card, the pen holder, I guess, broke off or something, and so they have a red 3D printed little clip on there. I know it's 3D printed. It's not the greatest quality in the world. It's got a little bit of shakiness to it. It's large layer lines, whatever. It does the job. That's what matters. I think I'm the only person that notices it. I saw a picture of, I have no idea where it was. It was in some train. Um, the vertical bars you can kind of hold on to. There was a grip on there that was 3D printed to have like the hand kind of finger grip lines on it, and it was 3D printed. And I think someone said, "Oh yeah, that was done by the city." And because it is such a high quality print, or to the public, what they think, they never notice it. They're surrounded by 3D printing things,
Yeah.
and they have no exposure to it whatsoever.
That gets us at something that we used to talk about all the time, which was when we were teaching young makers and new makers, especially. It was just noticing the world around you and starting to understand how things are made. And it's surprising that basically nobody does that
Yeah,
innately. It's not really talked about, right? But it's like
no.
a little bit of curiosity about things goes a very long way for understanding how to make them. And it's like, did they make it out of wood? Did they make it out of metal? Is it injection molded? Is it vacuum formed? Like, you can start to make sense of the world around you if you know some of these processes. So the same idea
I
there. And
I remember when
Jerry
we
says, really quickly, Jerry
yeah,
says, as long as you have to deal with support and you're not able to print complete shapes without a lot of post processing, 3D printing growth will be slow. I think you might be
true.
right, although it seems like what gets a lot of people into this is like that dragon is really popular, right? There's some model that
Mhm.
really blows up, and then nobody really cares about the 3D printing, but they do care a lot about the model. They're like, I want to make those things. Where did you get that? Right. And the curiosity starts with that one in use product. I think the trick is that it's trying to be a general purpose tool that's used for
Mm,
everything. And it's really hard to then segment out, like, car people understand how useful it is. By the way, the new Ford Maverick apparently is open sourced all of the interior so that you can design your own custom 3D printed parts for it, which I think is super rad and a huge step in the right direction. But yeah, I do agree with you, Jerry. I think growth will continue to be slow, but I would say that the growth has sped up even with the introduction of these printers. Now that people can say, "Oh, you don't have to just open it and use it. Just open it and press the
mm,
button and it'll go." So, and then really quickly, there's let's see. Um, Something the size of the Bamboo Mini is just fine for useful things, would be great in every home if it was a true click and print. I think one of the use cases I would love to see is um, like an open source community around furniture inside of a house. Like if you wanted to outfit your house with stuff, and then all of the
mm,
furniture, kind of like McMaster-Car, if all of the furniture came with all of the CAD files along with it, and you could and
mm.
also if you had computer vision is to this point, right, where you can just point your camera at something and talk about what's broken. It'll go, oh, you need this part, and it sends it to
Cool.
your printer and prints it. Those are some use
Yeah,
cases I could see being pretty handy. That said, maybe just make better things that don't break very often is also the other side of
yeah.
that. So
That's the other
I don't know.
option.
Just some thoughts. Yeah. What about you, Jake? I know I cut you off there.
No, I completely forgot what I was going to say. I I want I do want to live in this world where everyone has a 3D printer because they see just how amazing the technology is. And as a side note, what you were saying, where you can, oh, something's broken and I can fix it. I don't need to throw it away and replace it. I can build a replacement and the file's already done. I just click a button and wait a little bit. It's like this dream of the Star Trek replicator where I just click a button,
Yes.
it's made it. And as long as you're comfortable, as long as you accept, oh, there's more time than in the movies. It's not just boom and it's here. You have to wait a couple hours. Maybe just you treat it like you're charging your phone, where oh yeah, I start it and then in the morning it's done, and it does work every single time. I think as long as you have that, it will become more and more usable, user friendly, become more ubiquitous, I suppose. But I still have this kind of pit in my stomach where I go, I think it will stay in the maker world for a lot longer. And regardless of how many bells and whistles the new printers have, regardless of how unbreakable they are, the machines, and how infallible the print becomes. Oh, we've designed the perfect slicer where it can never fail because we've invented this new technology and this new bed and this new filament, yada yada yada. I still think it will be viewed as a making niche in the same way that baking is a making niche. Anytime we're introducing people to a workshop, we go, "Who here's a maker?" A couple of people put their hands up, and we go, "No, no, no! All of you are makers. You just really don't realize it. A handful of you are writers. A handful of you like making videos. A handful of you are bakers. A handful of you like to, do anything creative. Drawing, sketching, doodling. It doesn't really matter that much. Makeup, for God's sake." And you kind of are expanding this area or this kind of globe of makerness, but that preconception that makers are old dudes that are woodworking and covered in dust and they've got beards and mustaches.
Yeah.
As soon as we can get over that hump, then I think the 3D printers are going to stay in the makering world.
So I think to summarize some of what we've said and some of
Unfortunately.
what's come through in the chat, we are much closer to the microwave of 3D printer. It's still going to be a little
Mhm.
while before we get there, but
Yep.
it seems like the the general sensation that I get is moving away from the Ender 3, where you're doing that full on build, moving away from
Mhm.
these longer setup time printers, moving away from these more technical machines and towards less technical and more they just work machines,
Mhm.
is both a good thing. It's where we're
I
moving.
completely agree.
And, Dan made a point earlier on. He said, the one of the real skills is the slicing software itself. So if we can
Mhm.
focus a lot more on teaching people in depth how to use slicers and a lot more in depth about how to learn CAD and a lot less about actually fixing the machine and fiddling with it, I think it's better.
I
I
think it's
think it's
better as
better.
well.
Yeah. And
That's a
likewise with
very
lasers and CNC routers, he says, yeah.
yeah.
Jake, that's a great
That's a very hopeful
Wow.
leaving point.
That is a really hopeful leaving point. So we hope to see some of you at Open Sauce if you happen to be there. But once again, this has been the CADclass podcast. I'm Josh,
I'm Jake.
and we will see you all next week.
See you guys.